T-minus 3 hours, 9 minutes, 2 in the air in this dash cam shot. The structure just on the horizon there is the vertical integration facility for Space Launch Complex 41, and there is their final destination, Space Launch Complex 40. The first my mistake, that was the former, that was one of the last components added to this pad to certify it for crewed launches. Of course, we have a package on that also on our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen the history and the lineage of testing this pad and certifying it for crewed launches, you can check that out at your leisure as well. If you're just joining us for the first time with this live coverage today, having previously supported the Crew 4 mission, as well as 2 missions for Axiom Space, AX2 and AX3. This is the level of the tower that is just beneath the crew access arm, which you can see here. These are 2 members of SpaceX's advanced team. These are 2 members of SpaceX's advanced team. This is the White Room, and you can see there a pristine white square surrounding the black SpaceX logo. Don't see a NASA meatball in here, so presumably Nick and Alex, Nick Hague, the NASA astronaut and commander of this mission, and don't see a NASA meatball in here, so presumably Nick and Alex, Nick Hague, the NASA astronaut and commander of this mission, and Alexander Gorbanov, the Roscosmos cosmonaut and mission specialist, may leave their signatures around the SpaceX X. Typically at pad 39A, they would sign around the NASA meatball, signifying that this is a crew mission for NASA. They would sign around the NASA meatball, signifying that this is a crew mission for NASA. Being that this is all brand new, we'll see what new traditions bear out this time around. And we'll be talking with a launch weather officer a little bit closer to liftoff to get as relevant a picture of the weather outlook as possible as they prepare to fuel the Falcon 9 rocket in the final hour before the planned liftoff at 1:17 p.m. Eastern, 17:17 UTC. Live interview of the day, so stand by as we get that set up, and we'll be right back with our first special guest. You're watching live coverage of the Crew 9 mission to the International Space Station with Spaceflight Now.
This is core on countdown, T-minus 3 hours. Crew have arrived at the pad.
Now T-minus 2 hours, 59 minutes, 3 seconds and counting. NASA astronaut Nick Hague, Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov heading up to the space level. NASA astronaut Nick Hague, Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov heading up to the space level. One of the buttons that is specially labeled here within the elevator. Those arrows are guiding them, if needed, to the emergency egress system. Those are those big white arrows are for. Arrows are for. You can see Nick and Alex just emerged from the elevator, saying hello to the advanced team. You can see they're about to leave their signatures.
This is core on countdown, T-minus 2 hours, 56 minutes. Crew have arrived at the White Room.
Fun fact, this is also the first mission as part of the Commercial Crew program since the Demo 2 flight that is actually launching in the daytime hours. Nighttime launches are always fun to watch, but it's kind of nice that we'll be able to see this Falcon 9 take flight in the daytime here. On a number of the duties of a pilot, though, since there are only 2 of them flying on board this mission. Dragon designed to fly and dock autonomously. However, there's a lot of systems to oversee and make sure that they're operating as expected, so it's always good to have humans in the loop, as it were. They still have, according to NASA's Daryl Nail, and will generate some stormy weather off and on from that point on. And that's sort of the sticking point with the launch opportunity today. So launch weather officers are keeping a very close eye on things. Now T-minus 2 hours, 48 minutes, 48 seconds and counting. We're just getting ready for the first live guest that I teased.
Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground. Comp check.
With spaceflight now, for joining us with our continuing coverage of the Crew 9 mission. As you've been seeing over the last several minutes, both Commander Nicholas Hague as well as Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov are now safely inside the Crew Dragon Freedom, strapped in their vehicle, getting ready to go through some of the final checks before hatch closure comes up in a little less than an hour from now. We're currently T-minus 2 hours, 41 minutes, 16 seconds and counting. And as we're continuing to track the progress with spaceflight now, thank you so much for before launch came about. How did this mission sort of coalesce together, and what was the goal from CEN with sending these 4K cameras up to the ISS?
Yeah, so CEN is a company that's actually been around for quite some years. And we have our own satellite, a little 20U satellite that was launched in 2022. And that's been capturing 4K views of the Earth daily. And we've done a few live streams from it. So if you go to cen.com, you'll see a history of just hundreds of clips in 4K. And really, that's the whole premise of CEN, is to bring 4K views of the Earth to the public for free, and to really bring the public along with us. Now, my connection with CEN really which had me get connected with NASA's live video feeds. And I personally had a passion, an idea that I wanted to see the views from the space station improved. And CEN was obviously the company that was going to be providing that, as far as I could see. So back in 2019, that's when I reached out to Charles Black, who's the founder of the company. And we started discussing opportunities for bringing for the space station. And obviously what's beside me right here is really one of the first examples of this. So I happened to be watching this live when we were streaming it privately. We weren't streaming this live, but it was really quite an amazing thing to see this happening. You know, I always wanted to, so we wanted to have a view of on what I consider one of the best places on the space station, and that puts us right at the front, quite close to where NASA's old HDEV system used to reside. And we have three camera views, actually 6 cameras, because you know, you always double up just for failover. This is the one that's pointed directly at the PMA2 forward docking port, and horizon shots, and then we have a Nadir camera. And over the last month, since it's been installed, so it was installed not by a spacewalk, it was installed by a Canadarm mission, robo-team mission, about a month ago. And yeah, that was after it was launched on SpaceX 30 in March. And we've been pulling our hair out, waiting for the scheduling to happen so that could be completed. And we're very happy that our live stream we've scheduled is going to be for the docking. And then thereafter, we'll get into really streaming 24/7. And as Space TV director, I'll be one of the folks who's making the choices of camera switching between all of the different views based around what's happening.
And you teed me up to the next question I was going to ask, which was about the live stream of the arrival of the Dragon Freedom, which is, you know, a big reason why we wanted to talk to you today specifically, since it'll be about 28 hours or so from the time of launch to when Dragon is docked at the International Space Station. And so, you know, through the commissioning that you and the CEN team have done since it's been installed, I guess, have there been any hiccups or challenges, or has it pretty much worked as you imagined it was going to once it was fully installed on the outside of the ISS?
Yeah, I think Justin, because the payload was up there for a long time, sort of under wraps.
Stott, a fellow Floridian.
Minus 2 hours, 19 minutes, 26 seconds and counting. Want to thank Liam Kennedy again for joining us to talk about Space TV 1, some of the work that they've been doing to commission that 4K camera, or those 4K cameras, I should say, on board the International Space Station, and talk about the upcoming views that we'll be getting of Dragon as it makes its approach to the forward port on the Harmony module when it arrives about
sort of under wraps. So obviously we had to install a few updates, but really it's a remarkable process that we've gone through. We're going through a process of adjusting the color, adjusting the exposures. And we're getting used to being able to operate the payload through the back end systems that we have access to. But it really is quite extraordinary. Being able to operate the payload through the back end systems that we have access to. But it really is quite extraordinary. We were live streaming privately very soon after we really were switched on. Remarkably, I think it was maybe just a day or so before Starliner undocking. And I was so pleased when we were actually live streaming, and we showed so pleased when we were actually live streaming, and we shared the views with a number of people from Boeing and from NASA, so they could also see it happening live as well. And we've had some really great reviews from those parties too, saying it's obviously so far better than what's currently available from NASA's stream. If you're watching the live stream, pretty grainy examples there. The other key thing, which is unique for us, is that we're recording as well on board. So we're immune to loss of signal events as far as the final clips. And I think that the current method of downlinking video from the space station for the EHDC cameras and other cameras up there is generally, if there's an LOS, there's no video.
Point of navigating around LOS, or loss of signal, being that this is Space TV 1, is the goal to launch another sort of follow-along mission with this, or do you imagine the evolution of this program, looking like an expansion of connectivity, maybe using a satellite internet provider like OneWeb, like SpaceX's Starlink, or another one, to be able to provide continuous, uninterrupted views? I guess, is that sort of the long-term goal?
The whole way that SEN is set up is to provide this for the long term, and that means we're looking at additional opportunities on the space station, perhaps in other areas, because the location we're in currently, we only have access to forward docking port and the Deer. That the place we're on Bartolomeo doesn't allow a rear view. So we're looking at future options, commercial space stations.
Right.
So you can imagine every single one of those, we want to be there, because our whole model is to bring all of you who are listening to this broadcast along with us. And we're planning on going to the moon as well. So really bringing everyone out there.
And as SEN is bringing this capability online, it joins a mosaic, if you will, of a number of companies that are.
Yeah. So there's ultimately many different ways that our content can be utilized. We are really, I would say, I would position ourselves unlike other traditional Earth observation companies. I'm talking about Planet and others who are doing high-res imagery, of locations around the Earth. We are firmly in the region of providing the stunning visuals and having people content that has already started to be utilized in broadcast TV, also across into some films and documentaries. That's really what it's all about, is bringing you, the general public, along and being able to feel as if you are really part of moving humans into space.
And lastly, as we return to talking about
Driving, you'll see it on the right of the frame, pretty early on, when it's closer to the space station. So you may look at it and you'll think the view looks a little bit unusual, but we'll be. I'm not entirely sure right now exactly when in terms of the docking schedule, when we'll be there. And that's why if you go to SEN, so as an ambassador for SEN, Chris is great in that respect. Also Nicole Stott, and then Dr. Cyan Proctor. So Dr. Cyan Proctor, of course, is inspiration for astronaut. So all of those will help have a particular perspective on this from people who've seen the views with their own eyes.
and of course Nicole.
So this closeout crew has quite a bit of margin left to work any fine details that they want to weave in here. So no rush at this point in time. Again, the closeout crew member with the number 11 is the lead of this group that you're seeing here today.
And Dragon, we're doing final photo verifications on the side.
Currently T-minus 2 hours, 6 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. As you can see from our live cameras and this pad view right here, the rain is starting to fall out at Space Launch Complex 40. Going to go ahead and temporarily switch to another camera view. This is our vantage point of the pad as seen from the Kennedy Space Center press site. And Stephen, if we can go to that, I was just about to call for the wide view there. You can see those thunderstorms, rainstorms certainly, that mentioned were going to be rolling in based off those satellite images. Take a look from the pad view here, these NASA and SpaceX camera views. Give you an idea of the rainfall. This one really very clearly illustrating the rain starting to come down here now. As the Launch Weather Office was forecasting this mission, they had suggested that this was going to be a possibility, if not a probability, during the countdown. That this was going to be a possibility, if not a probability, during the countdown. Just listening into NASA's Daryl Nail, there are no lightning strikes that have been detected within the cell that is currently moving over the pad. Currently traveling at about 20 knots in a northeasterly direction. Within the cell that is currently moving over the pad. Currently traveling at about 20 knots in a northeasterly direction. Of course, the launch weather team keeping a close eye on this system as it. Of course, the launch weather team keeping a close eye on this system as it continues to move. Is a live view from the GOES East satellite, an overview of the storm system that is pushing on into the Cape area. Or just under 8 minutes with this RTLS, or return to landing site operation. Currently T-minus 2 hours, 2 minutes, 58 seconds and counting. With the hatch closed, we are coming upon the next big milestone, which will be the mission director giving their go, no go for the start of fueling. You can see some of the venting there at the pad is milestone, which will be the mission director giving their go, no go for the start of fueling. You can see some of the venting there at the pad as they're starting to condition things ahead of fueling. Falcon 9 powered by a combination of liquid oxygen as well as RP1, or rocket grade kerosene. When fully fueled, it has 1 million pounds of propellant on board. Liquid oxygen as well as RP1, or rocket grade kerosene. When fully fueled, it has 1 million pounds of propellant on board. Taking a look at the live chat here, that is just dumping some rain.
Freedom copies. Good. Side hatch leak check.
Good call out from SpaceX on the side hatch leak check. One more box ticked. Of course, the chat here. I want to thank the more than 2,400 of you that are joining with us live this afternoon, or still technically late morning at this point. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button to allow some more folks to find their way into this live coverage. Certainly appreciate that. Also want to welcome in Daniel H. joining us. Still technically late morning at this point. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button to allow some more folks to find their way into this live coverage. Certainly appreciate that. Also want to welcome in Daniel H. joining us with channel membership at the pad leader level, and then turning right around and gifting 2 Spaceflight Now memberships. Taking a look at the wide shot here, you can see the storm that is just dumping some rain out near the pads. Looks like a little closer to Launch Complex 30. That is just dumping some rain out near the pads. Looks like a little closer to Launch Complex 39A on the left-hand side of your screen. Pad 40 is out of frame from this camera's vantage point off to the right, but you can see the pad level view in the horizontal box on the right-hand side of your screen. Along the ascent corridor.
Dragon SpaceX, we had a good side hatch leak check. Dragon, so good news is we've got a healthy pad, Dragon is healthy, and Falcon is looking good. The story remains weather, as previously briefed. We're watching radar data in real time. Currently, we'd be no-go to launch, but we think there's a real shot of getting a clearing in the weather around T-0, and the ascent weather continues to look good, so we've got a chance of going to space today. We'll check in as we have more updates. No-go to launch, but we think there's a real shot of getting a clearing in the weather around T-0, and the ascent weather continues to look good, so we've got a chance of going to space today. We'll check in as we have more updates. How copy?
Freedom copies. Good pad, good vehicle, and you're saying there's a chance with the weather. Outstanding.
With an outlook like that, those are the words you want to hear. You're saying
With the weather. Outstanding.
with an outlook like that, those are the words you want to hear. You're saying there's a chance. And a chance is better than standing down from a launch opportunity today, so the teams will continue to press forward towards a liftoff. Towards a liftoff. Seeing a couple of lightning warnings for other areas of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, not directly impacting Pad 40 at this time. As we continue on with the countdown here, T-minus 1 hour, 56 minutes, 34 more folks for your support. Thanks to channel member Leslie Daniel for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships, and moderator and fellow channel member Calistia Lee for gifting 10. So with those combined with the 2 from Daniel H, welcome aboard to our newest 17 channel members. Glad to have you with us. Be sure to thank Daniel, Leslie, and Calistia in the live chat if you haven't already. And we hope you stick around with channel membership, which includes discounts that are online to have you with us. Be sure to thank Daniel, Leslie, and Calistia in the live chat if you haven't already. And we hope you stick around with channel membership, which includes discounts at our online shop.spaceflightnow.com, access to member-only videos, and of course the ability to watch all of our launch liftoff moments here in 4K. As this mission progresses, SpaceX is running the countdown at Hangar X, the site where they refurbish Falcon boosters and prepare them for future flights, as was the case with B-1085 making its second flight to space today, or whenever this mission is able to launch if weather doesn't prove too insurmountable. Here's a look inside Hangar X, the widest view that we've actually gotten, courtesy of the dry dress rehearsal of this mission. Taking a look at the countdown timeline and some of the milestones that we've already stepped through here. The next big milestone here on the countdown will be the second stage. SpaceX operates alongside NASA personnel for crewed launches and other missions to the International Space Station that have NASA in the loop. SpaceX also has support from its headquarters in Hawthorne, California. On the countdown will be the go-no-go poll for the start of minus 45. Propellant load that's coming up at T-minus 45 minutes. Assuming that fueling is cleared, then the taper off here, wrapping up in the next few seconds. Setting up for second stage LOX load.
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
To begin right now. This is the final piece of the loading pie that had not yet begun. Loading pie that had not yet begun. Now underway. Appreciate the now more than 9,500 of you who are joining with us live. If you haven't already, we'd certainly appreciate it if you could hit that like button for us. Allows more folks to find their way into our live coverage as we continue on in the last less than 16 minutes before liftoff. A Crew Dragon spacecraft preparing to lift off from Pad 40, Space Launch Complex 40, Slick 40 as it's also known at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, heading up to the ISS, meaning it's going to be flying in a northeasterly trajectory along the coast of the eastern United States. So for those in the northeast, Florida, Georgia, and possibly into the Carolinas, go ahead and keep your eyes to the skies, and hopefully there's not too many clouds where you are. $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Chuck, for supporting us at that level. Don Pierce with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Don. And my mother, Mary Robinson, joining us this afternoon. So everyone in the live chat, give Mama Robinson a big spaceflight now hello. Now T-minus 16 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. You can see the big vent beginning to taper off here. Mama Robinson, a big spaceflight now hello. Now T-minus 16 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. You can see the big vent beginning to taper. With this mission, SpaceX will also have flown 54 individuals. Sending 4 astronauts on behalf of Axiom Space up to the International Space Station. That was back in the May pocket of 2023, led by former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. It then flew back to the space station with the 3rd mission from Axiom Space, AX-3 or Axiom Mission 3, just earlier this year. Now getting ready to make its 4th jaunt up to the orbiting outpost, beginning in 12 minutes and 10 seconds. Just earlier this year. Now getting ready to make its 4th jaunt up to the orbiting outpost, beginning in 12 minutes and 10 seconds. As the super cold liquid oxygen being loaded on board the Falcon 9's 1st and 2nd stages meets the much warmer, more humid Florida air, you can see some of that vapor forming on the skin of the rocket. It's causing that vapor and the frost that you're seeing on the vehicle. It's 45 seconds and counting. We're coming up on the comm check.
Dragon SpaceX, confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Freedom. We can confirm our displays are configured for launch. Also like to... And SpaceX on Earth.
Transitioning to internal power momentarily.